Hello, this is Simon Parks. Welcome and thank you very much. Obviously, we're having problems with poor old JP. He's lost his internet. He has no connection. So this is going to come out a little bit later. And I think that tonight, or last night, as you were listening to it, you're going to be hearing one of my replays. So I'm really sorry about that, but these things happen. So I'm very, very grateful to Colleen and to Michelle, who are producing and hosting tonight. So Michelle, can we go over to you for the latest questions, please?
Yes. So our first question is from Hannes from Hungary. It says, hi there. People always talk about the big dictators and what they have done, but most of them fail to mention their other half, their wives or love affairs. What do you think, what kind of person was Eva Braun, B-R-A-U-N, and what was her connection with Adolf Hitler and the whole political or UFO political background? Was she consciously taking part? Was she being manipulated? Or was she trying to manipulate Hitler as well? Thank you.
That's a really, really intelligent question, and actually that's the first person to ask a question on Eva Braun. And I think it took a female to perhaps try to understand and to try and think what that woman was like and what pressures were on her. I think Eva Braun was just completely swept off her feet back in the 1930s. You can imagine that it was very hard for women to reach any position of responsibility and authority. And so if you had an absolute dictator like Adolf Hitler who took a fancy to you, and you could just have anything in the world as it seemed, then I can understand why someone could be just totally swept along. I don't believe that she manipulated him at all. I think, like all women, she probably had an opinion and probably argued, and sometimes she won an argument and sometimes she lost it. In terms of the alien connection, she would have understood from him that he was being backed, certainly in the early part of the war, by something that she probably didn't understand. And she was so in love with him that towards the end, when it was obvious that his empire was going to be crushed, she didn't run away. She could have done, and she didn't. So we can only assume that she really did love him. I've always believed that Hitler never died in the bunker, that he escaped to Argentina. And my information is that Eva Braun actually left him after 5 or 6 years. Didn't stay with him for more than 5 or 6 years in South America. So I think that she came from a what we would call a middle class family. She certainly wasn't of a poor background. She was educated, and I don't even know where he met her. That's not something that I've been taught or come across my mind. But certainly she would have fitted the pattern because she wouldn't have tried to control him. Hitler wouldn't have been the sort of man who had wanted a woman to dictate anything to him. So I think that she was very genuine. I think she was swept off her feet. I think she found that she was sucked in too deep. She probably couldn't get out, but she did love him. And it must have been absolute hellish being in the bunker with the Russians closing around. And the only thing that I think saved them was the escape plan, because I never believed that Hitler or Eva Braun died in the bunker. They both escaped. So I hope that's some answer to that very good question.
Thank you, Simon. Our next question comes from Hannah Wald, 44. From 2012, the Earth has been in a great shift energetically. There is people and scientists talking about the frequency is shifting from 7.83 hertz to 12 hertz. 12 DNA, 12 months, 12 apostles, 12 moon cycles, 12 energy bodies, etc. There seem to be a lot of 12s on Earth. What about a 12 chakra system? Do you know anything about it? What are the roles of these chakras and where are they located? And last but not least, are the 12 chakras activating once the 12 strands of DNA have been activated or vice versa? Thank you, Johannes.
Lots of questions there. We don't have time to try to answer all of them. The resonance, the frequency is rising. it has to rise slowly, because if it rises too quickly, it will jump ahead of the capability of the physical body to make the change. The energy within our bodies will change rapidly and quickly and will follow, but it's much harder job to bring the organic up to that frequency. If it's not done in stages and slowly, then there will be a dichotomy, there will be a split. So it takes time. I don't want people to think that it's only started rising up from 2012. It's been rising before that, but it made a big step change in 2012. The chakras do activate when you bring in your DNA, but ultimately it's only when the 12th strand has been brought in, and then the decoding lock has been applied, and then all 12 strands are communicating, that all of the chakras will actually work together. What I think many people have found is that they operate independently. So you might find that one chakra is working quite well, and that's what you use. If it's remote viewing or astral projection, you might use one. If it's something else, the other. But it's about bringing them all into balance, so that they all support each other. And that's much more of an energy change than it is a physical change. Yes, I know we're in physical bodies, but in order to bring this lock, release this lock so that all are flowing together and connecting together, that's an energy thing. So number 12, and I think we've talked about this previously, that the 12 is a vital number. If you think about primitive people, when they were first learning to count, they would look at their hands and think, well, I've got 5 digits on one hand and 5 digits on the other. Therefore, I would make a system of 10. Now, indeed, in the European system, 10 is the decimal system. But in Britain and America and some other countries, it was always 12. Right back to the ancient Romans, they used the figure 12. The ancient Chinese. So 12 was given to us. It was given to us because it was a sacred number, not just because the aliens used 12, but because 12 was used by Source. It was a natural figure. So modern person has tried to move to the decimal system, which is to turn its back actually on our heritage and culture. 12 is the figure of the universe. It's the figure that we need to be with. Yes, chakras will activate, but only when all the DNA within that individual is switched on. Okay.
Thank you, Simon. This is another long one here. This is from Hannah Wald, 44. Hungary is believed to have special importance in the history of humanity. Some people believe that their roots can be tracked back to the Sumerians and other ancient civilizations. Here in Hungary, there is a place called Deboko, which is believed to be the heart chakra of the earth. Also, the language is very strange and contains vocals that are more various than any other language that I know. There is a place in Ecuador, the caves of Taos, which has ancient scriptures that are written in Hungarian language, and also some of the older tribes in the region still talk Hungarian. I myself am German, but happened to start a living in Hungary, and my wife is Hungarian. So what do you know about this?
Okay, it's very dangerous to start saying this country or that country. We're all together, regardless of what country. It doesn't matter whether you come from a little African state or whether you come from the most powerfulest materialistic country on the planet. Most countries actually can trace some connection to off-world entities. Might not be the same entities, but usually you can. If you think of Romania, that's just down the road from Hungary. And that is very interesting because the last dictator, a guy called Ceausescu, was the last communist dictator to be toppled. And the reason that he was the last one to be toppled was because the American, I'm not sure, I think it was probably the CIA rather than the NSA, were trying to do deals because in Romania are some very interesting off-world technology hidden in a particular cave or group of caves, and they didn't want to have a situation where there was a vacuum, power vacuum. So when this guy, Ceausescu, was removed, they needed to know that who was going to replace him was also going to be able to be manipulated by the elite in America. That is why he was the last one to be toppled. Hungary is very important because we can think of Transylvania, we can think of Dracula, and here is some very interesting links to the reptilian in terms of drinking blood. So every country nearly can claim to have some element either of energy from the earth, either good or bad if it's been manipulated, but generally it's good, through connections with off-world. You think of Germany. Let's just move across to Germany. When the Thule Society and the Viril Society were channeling what they thought were from Sirius or Cyrus, when they did the automatic writing, it looked incredibly Sumerian. So the Sumerian script, similar part to the Aldebaran alien grouping, can be found in many countries. Some of in African countries can trace language that looks a little bit Sumerian. So it's about particular alien races who set up bases or contact points in different countries. I don't know whether you could say that Hungary was the chakra point of this or it was the key point of that. I know for a fact that Ireland has very important energies. Britain has many important energies, but then so does America. So, yes, I'm absolutely certain that Hungary has got strong alien connections, but then most countries have as well. So thank you. It was a good question. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. This is from Axel. Simon said earlier that blue avians might be the construct of mind control. However, lately he stated they are real. What has changed?
Yes, it's a very good point. What we've got a situation where back end of last year, the Vatican's telescope, excuse me, the infrared telescope, which is called Lucifer by the Vatican, and I always say that because people just don't believe me, but it is, detected a particular object coming into the solar system. And it was first thought to be some of the original reptilian creatures coming back to reclaim the planet, as it were. It wasn't. And then it was sort of alleged that these were the blue avians. Now, the blue avians are a construct, but they are real in the sense that they're holographic. So they can appear to people, and they are created, and they're based on something that was original, but you'd struggle to find them in the Akashic records. So people are seeing them for real, but they're not physical. They are holographic projections. What I don't know at this stage is who is behind that. So that's all I can say at the moment.
Thank you. The next question comes from Shakeup. Do the physical differences between the human Earth race exist as a result of different alien races genetically experimenting, altering, and manipulating the original human through the centuries?
Yes, a combination. That's another good question. I'm sure if Charles Darwin was here, we would have a real interesting tea party. Genetics on this planet have a great deal to play, and we understand that. But you can't really look at the genetics of a moth or an ant and try and say, well, that is the same with a human. So whilst humans will adapt to the environment they're in, so whether you're in a hot desert area, your skin may change colour, in the way that you source food or the way that your body will change, to cope with that will be dependent on the environment. But if we go back 220, 250,000 years ago, we will find that a certain type of human was altered. And I'll restate it, that aliens did not create people. Humans have been around a very long time. All that happened was that there was genetic laboratory alteration to create people who could think and work, but couldn't outthink those that were in the position of elite. And do you know what? 220,000 years later, we're still in the same position. You look on the planet, you look around you, people are intelligent enough to work, but they don't seem intelligent enough en masse to actually throw off the oppressors. So that sort of program or that design seems to be still running. So there were alterations made, and I have gone on record as saying that black people are far better at resisting alien mind control than white people. And so you find that if you go to a UFO symposium or a UFO conference, unless it's greatly changed, you find the vast majority are white people. Now, is that because black people aren't interested? No, it's not. It's because the problems and issues that afflict white people regarding abductions, contacts and experiences are far greater than affect black people, because black people are able to fight off the mind control. And most commentators daren't go down this subject because they don't want to talk about white people and black people. It's a no-go area for them. But why? Because we need to understand black people are capable of overcoming the mind control element, and white people are not. So there's a debate to be had there. We haven't got the time to do that. It's an interesting thing to look at. So yes, people have been altered 220,000 years ago, and yes, people will change in response to the environment they're in. So that was a good question.
Excellent, thank you. The next question comes from Saul. Hi, Simon. I have been giving PL regressions to people, and in one of them, after the person died in 1971, he found himself in a cave-like place and encountered reptilian-type creatures. He wasn't scared, but a person, quote unquote, came to him and said, "Expand your light." I then took him out of trance. Any ideas on what/who he saw?
No, he could have seen himself. If the point was was it expand your light or expand your life?
Light, L-I-G-H-T.
Right. So he's been given advice there to not just be introspective and not just to look at his own development, but to understand how his development could enrich or be beneficial to those around him. So expand your light means to actually shine out into the darkness and therefore have effect on others. So I would say that something or someone from a positive element wanted to try to steer him. So what is probably called a spirit guide. So someone was trying to push him in the right direction. So that was positive experience.
Beautiful. Our next question comes from Anonymous 9311. When Randy Kramer said he had been fighting reptilians and mantids on planet Mars, was he then in the third or fourth dimension? If they exist in the fourth dimension, how would he otherwise be able to see them?
Right. Randy is a genuine person. I have no doubt about that. Randy's told me that some of his memories have perhaps been implanted. He's told me that himself, and that to me makes him genuine, because he is aware that some of them are real and some are not real. His memories about mantids and reptilians, in my opinion, are real. You can see them in the third and the fourth. We exist on the third dimension, so we're very physical and we exist solidly. But if you are moved to the fourth dimension, it depends whether your energy body is moved or whether your physical body is taken with you. Excuse me. If your physical body is taken with you, then you are in their world. And in their world, they're physical, because they are in their own energies. So their own fourth dimensional world, they are real physical creatures. So if your body goes with you, you can touch them and be with them. If they come into our reality, the third dimension, if they bring their body with them, then they're real and physical. So they can be real and physical in both third and fourth. And so when Andy's been there, he will have been presumably either in physical or energy, or either both or singly. But it's perfectly acceptable. When you think about Alex Collier, Alex Collier goes to the fifth dimension. So in the fifth dimension, those creatures are solid and real because they're in their own reality. When a fourth dimensional creature comes here, we are physical because we're in our home base, if you like. I hope that answers the question for Anonymous.
Our next question is from Angel 33. As you have mentioned, we have 12 strands of DNA and that they can be brought down. How does one do this? Also, how would you explain the difference between soulmates and twin souls?
Right. I would understand the term soulmates or twin flames to be somebody that you have had a past relationship with, and you're very connected with them, and time again you connect with them and you re-pick up either where you left off or you restart again. So in other words, you have such a connection to that other person that they find you or you find them. My research, such as it is, tends to show that the female, when it's a female-male soulmate relationship, that the female comes to find the male. And if a person is moving around the globe, it makes it very hard for the other person to find them, because we all send out signatures of energy, ripples, which you can home in on if you're that way inclined. Some people do it consciously, some people do it unconsciously. But soulmates tend to report that they walk into a room or they see someone on the internet and they just look at them and say, my goodness me, I know that person. Absolutely know that person. We've been married, or we've had a past life, or etc., etc. And sometimes both parties get it straight away. Sometimes it takes the other party a little bit longer to get the full story. But it means that you have had a relationship with that person in previous physical bodies, not just on this earth, because it is the soul that you are connecting with. Because you can't identify the physical body, because it wasn't the physical body that you perhaps had a previous relationship with, but you would notice certain aspects. Generally speaking, if the person's very round and plump, I don't want to say fat, round and plump or well built, that's probably the body that they've always been in. But if they're tall and slim, again, that's probably the body they've been in. Now, the other point that they were asking about the souls is when you can sometimes have a soul that's mirrored. So the best way to describe it on planet Earth would be identical twins. So you can actually have a person that actually has a shared soul, or it's replicated, and there's another person with a fragment of that soul, or it has in the creation been so close that there are a number of elements that are copied over. That's why twins generally can be telepathic. That's why they like the same colour or the same food. Not because mum or dad sort of sat them down and necessarily treated them equally, but because when those souls were being created at source, they already had this very strong connection, and that they shared many, many values the same. So there's a difference between souls that are not sexually related, but are energy connected, and then there are twin flames or soulmates which are sexually connected. Okay, so I hope that explains.
Great. This next one comes from Breeze. You said recently that Ireland is one of the most energetic places on Earth. What are the others? What makes them so energetic? Is it beneficial to live or stay in these kinds of places? Thank you.
Ireland is particularly energetic because it belonged to part of Atlantis. And some of the energies that are still connected there exist through the crust. In other words, every country has an important focal point, a node or a nexus point. Some have more than others. But when natural energy upwells, it comes up to the surface through the crust, either through a natural spring or a hill, then the ancient people would perhaps build a stone circle or some form of monument to recognize the fact, because they were a damn sight closer to the planet than many people are now. So they could feel the energy, they could understand it, and they wanted to share it and keep it safe. So they would build some form of grove, and they would perhaps not chop the trees down, and they would perhaps encourage the animals to live there, so it would become like a haven of some sort. Ireland has many of those places. Also, Ireland has only recently become a technological country. It's been agricultural for a very long time. So those sites have been protected because there haven't been great highways built through it or great tower blocks. But all countries, to a lesser or greater extent, have this natural connection. Britain was always called, and I quote, the magical isle. South America, think of all the type of pyramids that are there, found and yet to be discovered. Parts of the Ukraine are very important. Think about What is Iraq and Iran? So many countries have it. And let's just talk about in Great Britain, there's a place which many listeners will be familiar with called Glastonbury. Here at Glastonbury is a very important energy line coming through. So it's not just the good or well-meaning people who wish to go to Glastonbury and connect with that very good energy. Those who are not quite so good. So might be a surprise for many listeners to know that the Rothschilds have bought some fields in Glastonbury and have built a pyramid. Yeah, I'll say that again. Rothschilds have built a pyramid on the field in Glastonbury, and they have meetings there. So we need to understand that there are many countries that have very important energies, and both sides of the divide wish to harness that energy. Most banks, buildings that hold money, are built on positive energy lines because the elite wish to increase their wealth. So by building a bank on a ley line or an energy line, they believe that will mean they will be more successful and have more money. The problem is, you see, that the elite have understood this, whereas the vast majority of the public do not understand it, and it's been hidden from them. So they say knowledge is power. So many countries have it, some are known, and some of these places are yet to be discovered. That's a good question.
Thank you. The next question is from Lamb the Nine. Can Simon talk about this upcoming wave of energy that is heading towards the Earth later this month, towards the end of September? What might we expect from this wave comes?
Well, let's not expect any volcanoes or tidal waves. Let's not start worrying about that. What we will expect will be different in each country depending on the energy that is emanating from the physical, but also from the intent of those humans that live on that location. So in a place like Britain, I would expect quite a big spiritual upheaval. In a place like America, in some areas, I might be expecting a little bit of physical trouble. The energy that's coming is not something new. It's not the beginning. This is part of a steady program to push the human race further along the road. For the last 2.5 years, this planet has been bathed in a blanket of dense, heavy, dark, or reptilian type energy, which has basically slowed up humans' development. It hasn't stopped it, but it's slowed it up. And that is why we haven't advanced as fast as we were projected to advance. This is a wave of energy which will bathe all of the living creatures on this planet, and its effect that it has will be different depending on where you are and the mindset that's going on. So even in different states of America, there will be different responses to it. We can't project or predict exactly how it's going to happen, because every living creature on this planet, every living human creature is different, and the group consciousness within that particular group can take that energy either way. What I would like to see is a quickening of people's ability to tell the difference between lies and truth. So when whoever it is sells them a story, they have a much better method by asking themselves in their soul, is this truthful or isn't it? And if it's not truthful, how am I going to respond to that? Because at the moment, too many people are accepting what they're being told as truth, and when they get lies and they know they're lies, they're not doing anything about it. They're not actually challenging it. And I want to see the human race begin to say, enough is enough. We don't want to go down this road any further. So I see this energy wave as part of this forward momentum to try and get the human race back on track, because we have actually slid back a bit. Okay.
Such great insight here. Thank you. So our next question is from Mish Mulatto. At the Triad Theater interview part 2, Simon did call the Archons, and I quote, a higher group of non-physical artificial intelligent life forms. I just wonder if they are the same ones that strip you at the light and send you back to incarnate with no memory of who you once were. There is so much to ponder.
Yeah, absolutely right. The reptilians are the gatekeepers. The reptilians do what they do, but even they are manipulated by a higher form. And by higher form, I'm talking about in the energy sense, because the reptilians are a organic living creature. Our reptilians have souls. Let's not get away from this. Source created souls which went into reptilian bodies. They have every right to live. The problem is that the Archons, or Velon, as they are appearing in the Akashic, have no physical body at all, and so they're very hard to spot, very hard to engage with and to defend against. And so they are able to manipulate every physical living creature simply because they cannot be seen themselves through traditional methods. So the system of enslaving people so that their physical body dies and their soul cannot get back either to source or to the family, the soul family that soul belongs to, but is trapped, bathed in a form of electrical energy, which means that the soul's memory is wiped for that lifetime, not always successfully, I might add, and then returned, only favours an archonic plan, because the Archons wish to manipulate human consciousness so that the humans begin to embrace artificial technology to the extent that it begins to replace the human soul. Now, this must never be allowed to happen, but it is their plan. In other words, and the audience knows this because you just got to see some of the films or some of the adverts, and we're almost being told that it's the way to go, to become robotic, because it's much more efficient, it's cleaner, it doesn't make mistakes, all of these points. But we're all versed with the argument that there's nothing that can beat humanity. The spark and the life of humanity is exactly that. We do make mistakes, but surely the point is that we can learn from those mistakes and we can be better the next time around. So people must never, ever give up the human aspect, because the plan of the Archons is to make humans so unhappy with themselves that they wish to become robotic as a way of saving themselves. And as soon as we do that, then we give credence to this archonic plan, and human consciousness will manifest the Archons into our reality. Because at the moment, an Archon cannot energy-wise appear in the third dimension. It can influence, but it cannot appear either in a semi-fluid form or a gaseous form. It can't do that. But if human consciousness was to accept that artificial intelligence was the way to go forward, we would invite these creatures in. So it's a very big battle, and the chipping program is all part of this archonic plan. So thank you for the question. It's given me the opportunity to talk about that.
The next question is from Lizzie Ben Sakiri. Hi, Simon. Is Mr. Simo King of the King's M1 with Un Swisindo, doing my best there, Indonesia World Department payments real or a scam? Do you know something about it? Thank you.
I've got no knowledge on that. It's I've been watching the financial situation across the world very, very closely, because it's a indicator of something much bigger to happen, and I have had to take my eye off the ball of individuals, because I'm monitoring the the wider picture. So that is a name I'm familiar with, but I cannot give a definitive answer because I've not literally had the time to sit down and meditate on that one.
The next one is from Jeanette. Where does the idea of royalty come from prior to the concept being brought to Earth? How far back does it go?
What a lovely question. That's brilliant. Anybody who's highly evolved doesn't have royalty. If you come across an alien race that has a stratified layer, they clearly haven't evolved. If you go to the 6th, 7th, 8th dimension and up, you tend to have those who study, those who have law, and those who have knowledge, and everybody else. But it's not a form of rank. The greatest element of replication on the planet Earth has come from the 4th dimension. Even if you think about getting a badge or a medal, which you put on your coat and you very proudly show your medal, that as concept has come from the 4th dimension. It's about I'm better than you because I fought in this war, but I have been recognized by those people who are more important than me. And those people who are more important than me gave me this nice piece of tin metal with a shiny edge and lovely coloured ribbon, and I pinned that on my chest, and I'm really, really proud. And the problem is that humans get sucked into this and they say, well, we're supporting the veterans, those men that died fighting for our country, and we're recognising their great sacrifice by giving them a medal. And for many, many people whose brothers, sisters, wives, husbands have died in a war, they proudly show their medals because their loved one fought for a cause of freedom. The problem is that often this cause of freedom is a fake cause. And why is anybody giving their life for a war? Why do we have to die? Why do we have to have medals? Why does someone have to be proud that someone died? Well, it's just wrong. And it's this whole manipulation that if you don't do that, you're not a patriot. And if you're anti a patriot, then you must be anti the system. Well, yes, actually, I am anti the system when it says we're going to have a war and we're going to have so many thousand people killed. And don't worry, though, we'll grab 5 oil wells and everything will be okay. So the system of hierarchy comes from the 4th dimension. Even the mantids, and I talk about the mantis quite a lot, they haven't evolved fully because they have a system of hierarchy. But if you listen to Alex Collier, he goes to the 5th dimension and the form of hierarchy doesn't exist as we would understand it. So we are very controlled and we are manipulated by a system that rewards some of us and not others. That's what hierarchy is. If you do what I want, I will promote you. I'll either give you more money, or I'll give you an extra stripe on your tunic, or I will give you a new job description, or you'll get some other favour. This is all hierarchical, based on you doing what I want you to do. So you create a group of people who mirror your desires. So we need to be very, very careful that when we are creating something, whatever it is, we're not just making the mistake of replicating a system of command and control, which is just doing what the elite want us to do. So that was a very good question. Thank you.
Simon, we've got a question here from Kitty. It is really, really long. And we've had a little chat about how to kind of condense it, but I don't see how we can without it losing its concept.
Michelle,
So,
if you think the question's worth it, then we'll have it in full.
I would really love to hear your answer. I know that. So I don't know. I'm going to read it. I don't know if you want to stop me and reread or how you want to do this. I just want to make sure that you get the whole thing. I think it's a great thing topic.
Okay, well, we'll do that then.
Okay. Dear Simon, have been studying Chris Thomas on your recommendation. He has wonderful recommendations and a meditation based on a Native American teaching on clearing out negativity to allow more and more of the soul to enter the body, as opposed to pulling in 12 strands of DNA. However, he says many things that seem to contradict what you and David Icke and many others say. One is about the Velon, V-E-L-O-N, 6 races including Anunnaki and Hathor, discovering Earth 1,000 years ago, wanting to claim it as their own, taking 650 years to get here, arriving only 350 years ago, and discovering it was populated. Most of the Velon, except the Anunnaki and Hathor, went home to the Anunnaki, took over the Illuminati under Rothschilds, traveled back in time 5,000 years to dictate a false history to a Sumerian scribe so humans would believe they were created by the Anunnaki, which is the false story Zachary Sitchin, unbeknownst to him, correctly translated. The Hathor took a different approach to channel false information to get humans off the planet. They called the reintegration of the soul into the body ascension to deliberately mislead humans into literally leaving the planet. There are a number of things Chris says that contradict what is commonly accepted. It makes sense to me, but people have trouble accepting this. There is one more really big question about the reliability or infallibility of the Akashic. Apparently, the Velon managed to withhold information from the Akashic and are seeking the Ark of the Covenant, which contains something that can change the record. Mm-hmm. Also, the history of the Earth and humanity is totally different from what is presented by Mark Kimmel. Thank you for your comments. Kind regards, Elaine.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. I don't actually really have much to argue with that. I totally agree. First of all, Zachariah Sitchin correctly, in my view, deciphered what he saw. The problem was that the tablets, the Sumerian tablets, were artificially placed in the correct strata of the Ziggurat temple where they were digging down. So when he read the tablets, he correctly reported what was on there, but they were fake. So when an energy like the Velon or the Archons, and I've said earlier in an earlier answer that they are the top of the pecking order because they are energy based and they're not physical based, they had the ability to alter the Akashic. Now, what Chris Thomas is familiar with will be deduction from the Akashic. In other words, if a mantid wants to do something, it can actually remove itself from that Akashic. But what more could you do if you were purely energy based? And what they'll do is remove certain histories or certain parts of it so that they don't appear in it. These creatures were newcomers to the scene, and I think Chris is absolutely right. We're not to confuse these with the Draconis reptilians. This Velon Archonic group is relatively new, and its job, from its perspective, is to convert all of the multiverse to itself. If you think about Star Trek with the Borg type creature, well, if you can imagine a non-physical entity that's job is just to make everything replicate and copy like a virus, well, there you have the Archons or the Velon. So actually I don't have a problem with most of what Chris says, and I do believe Chris is reading the Akashic records. There are a number of people out there who say they read the Akashic. I actually think they're reading their own DNA or part of their DNA, but certainly Chris is genuine. That's why he's being attacked. You know, if people are being attacked, it's because they're genuine, for heaven's sake. And Chris has certainly been attacked many times. I've got the highest regard and respect for him. But the only point that I would differ is that I believe that some of these very, very advanced negative creatures have an ability to hack the Akashic at the replicator level, I'll have to explain this, and change it. Because the questioner is absolutely right. I'm not sure if it's the Ark of the Covenant. I think I would go for the Tables of Testimony. I would say that the Akashic was held as the Tables of Testimony. And the Tables of Testimony are a backup system currently under the care of the Knights Templars. The Knights Templars are holding this, and they're holding a number of other sacred objects which they're not letting anybody have, simply because nobody can be trusted with it. Now, whether the Knights Templars can be trusted with it, I can't make a judgment, but I can only tell you that they have this and they're hiding it. It is the unaltered copy of the Akashic. So if you were to look at the Tables of Testimony, you would actually see that it would differ from the Akashic that many people are accessing. Now, if a person like Chris Thomas, God bless him, can access the Akashic, you can bet your top dollar that a Velon or an Archon can access it as well and do with it what they can. But there are a number of safety devices built into this to ensure that negatives do not get hold of this backup copy of the Akashic. And when the time comes, this backup copy of the Akashic will be plugged in to the Earth herself, and we will get a much clearer view of our history. Okay, that was a good question. Thank you for that.
Great. Our next question comes from Samaria33. Please tell us more about Dream Spa. Thank you.
Nope. I can't really tell you much about that. Normally I have a huge covering. I know a little bit about a lot. Because that's just the way it is. But the last few weeks I've forgotten quite a bit because I've been so concentrating on CERN. That has taken an awful lot of my time, and I've really just sort of not let everything go, but I've had to really concentrate on that. So I'm not going to give an answer on it. I do have some knowledge on it, but I tend only publicly to say about things that I'm very confident on. In private, then I would give an opinion, but I only publicly talk about things that I'm really confident about. So maybe in a few days' time or a few weeks' time I'll have more knowledge on that.
Thank you. This one is from Ma or Lady. As someone who lives in Israel and have been a supporter of, I'm going to spell it, Netanyahu, as he has promoted, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just, yeah, I know who he is. Yeah, okay. Leader of Israel.
As he has promoted a lot of positive changes in Israel, all of which are documented, and is a former military man who has risked his life several times in his tenure. I find it hard to relate to your saying that Bibi is a con man. I would like to know, in what way do you consider him a con man? What is his connection to the alien agenda, if any?
Well, I would like to be shown where I've actually said that he was a con man. I have never said that. If you can find me any writing or any interview where I've used the word he's a con man, then please show me that, because I've never said that. What I have actually said is that he has his own agenda, just as every leader of every country and every position has at the moment. And he has an agenda which, on one hand, is the saving of the nation state. And remember, I am a Jew, so I can speak like this. He has a mission to protect Israel, and so he should. But sometimes it means that we proverbially get into bed with other organizations or other people that don't share the same agenda that we do, but we go along with them because we think it's going to benefit us. And sometimes we get hooked in and we wish we weren't. And I would put him in that category because, yes, he is like many people in Israel, have fought very hard to preserve the state of Israel, regardless of whether we approve of it or not. The fact is that he's done his bit, but that doesn't mean that he's infallible. We can get caught up in things where we can get swept along and we can get manipulated. And it is a matter of public record that he did want a war with Iran. And his own chief of staff turned round to Netanyahu and said, no, because that will cause World War III, which actually in the State of Israel was the very first time that a military officer had refused a direct instruction from a democratically elected leader of that country. So we need to understand that sometimes leaders, no matter how we love them or we respect them, can sometimes make a mistake or sometimes make a decision which, on reflection, could do more harm than good. So that's what I would say about Netanyahu. I've never replied to him as a con man. That's my answer. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Simon, and thank you, everybody. We are going to take a short break, and we will be right back. And thank you all. Hi, everyone. We're back with Simon Parkes. And Simon, our first questioner for the after this break, they would just like to hear whatever you have to share with us regarding CERN.
Thank you. It's been quite a big energy engagement for us. The group that I helped to form, called Connecting Consciousness, is a group of people in many countries over the world. And I wanted to be able to use the energies of people's good intent to bring positive changes. And the first thing that needed to be looked at was the possibility of the CERN device perhaps having a less than beneficial effect for humanity. So I wanted to give people the full story in terms of what actually occurred, because it's only been done fragmentary, and it's not always been possible, even after 4 or 5 days after the event, to have the full picture. I've got a little grouping what we're going to do on the 24th of October. It's the second of our meetups. The first meetup we had was just for the Connecting Consciousness group, but this time I'm opening it out to anybody. But we only have around about 100 or 120 places. And this would be held in my own hometown in Whitby. We have a venue that we've got. And as part of the day, I'm going to be presenting some slides to give more detail of the CERN situation. And if people want to come along, I'm only going to charge about £15, and for that they're going to get fed. So it's more of not so much of a conference, it's more of a get-together, meet like-minded people, share ideas, and just to be in an environment where you can relax and be yourself. So I don't want people to think it's a conference, it's not. But the CERN situation was very serious, because it was designed to operate on the 15th to coincide with the very unusual planetary alignment of that time, and also to piggyback the Earth's natural biorhythmic energy wave, like a sine wave, basically. And we were always scheduled British summertime to come on at 12 with our meditation, and to sign off at 5 minutes past 12. So rather underhand for the elite to operate that device at 3 o'clock in the morning. Literally called all their scientists in and fired up, as they would say, fired up the plant at 3 o'clock in the morning. Which makes me very proud that the 500 or 600 people that I'm aware of, but maybe a couple of thousand people throughout the planet, could have had such a strong intent that the elite decided not to wait to the normal operating time, but to go at 3 o'clock in the morning. So anyway, what happened was that this was detected, and for some reason the CERN device failed to operate at 3:30. It sort of broke down. Don't know why that was. Couldn't say. And it took them quite a long time to become operational. They started it again about 11:30 our time in Great Britain. Or just let the motorbike go by. And we started our meditation at 12 British Summer Time, so the device was already operating. We finished at 5 minutes past 12. 6 minutes later, for some unknown reason, the device failed again. And we have evidence, because I know what some people are like. They'll say, oh, well, I don't believe you, or prove it. Well, I've actually got screenshots from the official publicity department that, supplies the media with information about CERN. And I have a screenshot showing that it failed 6 minutes after our meditation. So, for some inexplicable reason, the CERN device failed at 3:30 in the morning, and it failed again 6 minutes after the meditation. I have no idea why that fell, why it broke down, and I'm really sorry for the scientists who would have worked so hard to have made that machine work, but it didn't work. And on the 24th of October, I'll have more information and some slides to show about that. I honestly don't know whether Source and humans can ever be broken, because it's a divine thing. But this was their intention. Their intention was to break the connection between Source and the human race. And whether they could do it or not, it doesn't matter. The fact is that if you are an active person, you're not going to just roll over and say, well, kick me again in the stomach. What you're going to say is, I'm not having that. And we're going to have a positive statement here, because we have a right to put our opinion across. And I don't believe in guns or knives or bricks and bottles or petrol bombs, because I know that reality can be created through thought. And this is what even people who profess to, being leaders of the New Age movement don't really seem to understand, that you can affect material objects with the power of your own mind. Now, the elite understand this, and I will tell you this, that the CERN device this time was heavily protected with remote viewers, negative people remote viewing the perimeter of the CERN device and the inside of it to prevent anybody energetically having a little wander around. It didn't work, obviously, because the device still failed. But it just shows the lengths and the ends to which some of these organisations will go. They were so determined to make this device secure. Anyway, a number of connecting consciousness people have suffered as a result of that. Physical effects and energy effects. And I suppose that they would say that this is payback by the negative energies for those who have participated. But we won't be put off, and I will say that after the September energy blast in October, what I'd like to do is to get the Connecting Consciousness group and anybody else who's good. We're going to do another one, and this time we're going to punch some holes in the energy grid that surrounds the Earth. There are already some holes in it. This is the prison planet scenario. We have this net around us, and I'd like our group to punch some holes in it, see if we can't get some people out and get some new people in. So thanks for that question. That allowed me to talk a little bit about CERN.
Thank you, and thank you all for your service there. The next question comes from Neth Giln. I was asked during a retreat not to eat onions or garlic because it slows something down, i.e. focus/concentration. Also, I heard during World War II, the RAF pilots were told the same thing. Does not eating these and other things help us pull down our other DNA strands?
I don't want the garlic association after me, do I? I don't eat garlic or onions. I was told not to eat garlic and onions because in my case, and of course I'm only speaking for my own personal self, that it would affect the way that the neurons in my brain passed information. However, having said that, garlic does actually contain a very, very useful antibiotic. And if you are in need of antibiotics and you can't get any, then if you were to eat quite a lot of garlic, actually it does produce an antibiotic element which can assist you. So I think it's about saying, what is it that I want? And it's true that certain people are aware of what garlic can and can't do. And I have heard myself that some elements of the armed forces told their staff not to eat certain things. But as I say, we live in an interesting world, and if I criticise garlic too much, I'm sure that the Garlic Growers Association or the I Love Garlic support group will lobby me. So I'll just leave it at that, I think.
Great. The next question is from Blinn. How overwhelming do you expect the energy wave in September to be? Is it the game changer?
No, the game changer was a good question. The game changer was in 2012. That was the game changer. But this, in a way, is a little game changer because it's got to shift 2.5 years of stagnation. We have been literally pushing uphill for 2.5 years and getting nowhere fast. So this energy, I'm expecting it to be sort of like a real push to displace this heavy energy and to get the human race back on the track. We should be questioning more, we should have insight, we should be connecting, we should be seeing into the fourth dimension, we should be perceiving the fifth dimension, we should understand who we are, connect with ourselves a lot more. That's been deliberately held up by this negative reptilian energy blanket. And so this nice injection of positive energy will actually push us forward. So it will have different effects on different people and in different countries, but certainly it will swing from a much more of an awakening to I can see the difference between truth and lies, right through to some people who might become quite aggressive. So I can't see how it's going to play out. I don't know yet.
Great. Our next question is from Ben. Last time you spoke about reconnecting with the 12 strands of DNA. Can you elaborate on this? How is it done?
I really should work some workshops on it. I mean, there really is. It would really benefit people. It's one of the things that I've been seriously considering, because when we reconnect with our DNA, we jump ahead of the game. And I don't mean we jump ahead of our next door neighbour, because that's not what it's about, but we become much more on a level par with the elite. Remember, it's the elite that control all the black helicopters, and who deliberately abduct people who are close to their 12 strands to take samples from them so that they can try to understand how these human creatures are connecting their own DNA. Because if an elite government can build up a picture of, say, several thousand people on the planet who are on their 10th, 11th strand of DNA, or pushing the 12th strand, then they can understand how far the rest of humanity is behind them. Because when everybody, or a sizable portion of people, get their 12 strands of DNA, then there's no need for government. There's no need for money as such. So the system that we understand will come down. And so in many ways, these people who are being abducted by black helicopter crews are being checked, because it's a timeline of how much time the elite have. Drawing in your DNA. Meditation is undoubtedly one of the best ways to do this. The difficulty for many people who have a sizable amount of reptilian in either in their soul or in their energy frequency of their body, find it very difficult to meditate. And so those people, and that includes me, I have a sizable amount of reptilian in me, have to find other ways to assist meditation. And when I do my consultations with people, then I'll say to them what's appropriate for them, and they could try this or try that, and that seems to do the job and work. But meditation is the answer for most people, but depending on their soul group, then I would advise how that meditation should go. In other words, if you are a particular, what I refer to as a higher human, which is a human creature but from a higher dimension than the third, depending on your soul family, then you can use either images or sound, which will help you to connect that part of you quicker, and so bring down the DNA. So I can't answer this question blanketly. I would always answer this question on an individual level. But it is vital, and going back a little bit to the point that Chris Thomas made, the word ascension is a word that the New Age have used. I use the word ascension simply because that is what the public understand, the general public, not our audience here, they know. But we have the image that to ascend is to go up, which is good. To descend is to go down, which is bad. But the reality is that we are drawing down our higher selves. We're bringing the 12 strands of DNA into our body. That's descending, but in this case it's a positive thing. When Chris Thomas talks about the soul ascension, he's probably talking about service to self ascension, or ascension of one creature and another creature coming in on the back of it. So our souls, which we all have, which are given to us by God, are in our bodies. You know, Source, God, the great creator, whatever you want. They're already there. We're not drawing those into ourselves because that's what's in our body and that's why we're animated. If those souls were not in our body, we'd be dead physically. So unquestionably, what we're drawing down is the 12 strands of DNA which were stolen from us by a reptilian stroke archonic Velon force some years ago to provide a workforce of humans who were physically and intelligently capable of carrying out not just menial tasks, but some quite complex tasks, but didn't have the oversight to understand how they were being manipulated. And that's why I keep going on about it. If we get the 12 strands of DNA, people will suddenly say, aha, I can see through the curtain. I can see what's happening here. And knowledge is power. So I want people to draw down their strands of DNA so that then they can't be fooled by trickery anymore. And when you've got hundreds of thousands of people who know the truth, the game is up. So that was a really good question. Thank you.
Okay, our next question is from Paul31NY. Are you familiar with Nancy Hopkins and Will Silva's work with creating the new timeline where the jinn are free and assisting Gaia? If so, I wanted to know what your thoughts are on this and if you could confirm things. If you're not familiar, Nancy and Walt are hosts on another show here. Actually, their show follows yours, Cosmic Reality.
I'm not familiar on that. I have great experience with the jinn. And I have some sympathy with them. And before everybody throws their arms up in horror, I need to understand that the jinn were on this planet. And when human consciousness expanded, the jinn were pushed from this dimension and stuck in the interdimensional space. So they have a problem. What I'd like to see is humans and jinn living side by side. At the moment, human consciousness is not at that level to accept that, and the jinn's consciousness level is not yet reconciled to being in a shared boat, for want of a better word. The jinn, being energy creatures, could certainly support the planet. Anything that's energy is able to make changes, and it's a bit like manipulating the flow of water through a pipe. It's much easier when you do it on an energy. You're much more sensitive to do that. So such creatures could do a great deal to help, and that would be preferable. The situation at the moment is that there are a number of black magicians who for a long time now have had a deal with some of these creatures and entrap them or trick them, and it's a very, very unhealthy relationship between satanic brotherhood groups and some of these energies, and it needs to end. So no, I'm not familiar with that. I'd be delighted to hear more about it because it sounds positive, actually.
Yeah, it sounds, I can just say there's some similarities in what I heard from you, so I think that answered the listener's question. Our next question comes from Donna, also known as Starseed. My question is about the pineal secret space program use sonic frequencies to grow the pineal. Is there another way to grow the pineal that is safe?
Yes, anything that's artificial is not very good. The elites have been, because the elite can't be God, the elite can't replicate God. It can't replicate the creational force. But what it does do is it uses incredibly advanced technologies to try to jump it, or to short-circuit it, or shortcut it, and wants to create a group of people who are incredibly psychic. You know, go back to the 1930s. Adolf Hitler was one of the first to try to create the super soldier. But these are all artificial constructs of something that's already created by the undying creator. So the best way to bring all your chakras together and to sort the pineal gland out is to make sure that you're first of all eating decent as food as you can and drinking fluids that are as good as you can to maintain an even balance on your energies. In other words, good example of this would be if you are in the kitchen and you drop a cup and it smashes and you jump around the room shouting and screaming, you know, that was my favourite cup, or why did I do that? You're not really going to evolve. You have to try to maintain an even balance. And I always say, when that occurs in this house, to the person, is anybody dead? Are you hurt? If you're not hurt, then it doesn't really matter. It's not an important thing. And I think that we have to learn to appreciate what's important and what's not important to get a balance, so that then we can make sure that the energies that we are engaging with are being used to create something positive. You know yourself that if you play very, very soothing, beautiful music over ice crystals as they're forming, they will form with beautiful patterns. If you expose those forming crystals to something negative, then the crystals don't form properly. Well, that's a crystalline substance, and it's a geometric pattern. Most of the fabric around us is of a geometric pattern and of a substance that's crystalline. So think about your own bodies. Think about the way you are. If you are thinking evil thoughts or bad thoughts or just up and down negative thoughts, then you are going to have the effect on that. But if you're more positive and more even in your distribution of energies, then you will find that the pineal gland will actually be more resonant. It will actually work more. And it's about fine-tuning it. If you think about an old analog radio, you put your hand on the dial and you turn the dial and you just get the station just absolutely sweet, absolutely spot on. That's what humans have to do. They have to fine-tune all these senses that they have, these abilities to send out information and to receive information. And they're all there. People have them. But it's about turning that dial to activate them individually and as a group. So part of meditation, part of what you eat, part of what you drink, but keep your energies evenly and balanced, because when you become highly excited, negative energies, or creatures I should say, will collect around you, attempting to draw that energy. And if any evil organization is using any form of Scala weapon or any form of electronic projection weapon, then the more highly charged you are, the more easy it is to actually, cause you some damage. So that was a good question.
Okay, our next question is from Anonymous 4070. On one interview, it says he, I am assuming he means you. He said he would be happy to serve his country on the highest political position. On another interview, he said Obama did awful things. On the third interview, he said that Obama was a good man. Could Simon do awful things when in a position of power and still see himself as a good man? How dark can he be?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because that's the second Anonymous. And, when I do my radio shows, everybody knows who I am. I don't hide by Anonymous. And I think we should judge people by their ability to come forward and to be transparent themselves. But I will answer the question because it's an inane question, but I won't give it an inane answer. I'll give it an intelligent answer. Obama is a good man. but he's a man that's been probably blackmailed, probably threatened. He's a man that was bred for the job. So before this guy was even 5 or 6 years old, it was always decided that he would be President of the United States. To my knowledge, the only person that wasn't was Kennedy. And that's why in the end he was assassinated, because he wouldn't play the game. Nearly every other president has played the game. Yes, if somebody came to me and said, right, we're going to let you make decisions, and I said, oh no, I'm not going to take that position, that would be a travesty to mankind or womankind. Because why on earth would I go on a radio show, as I do every week, do the conferences I do, talk to groups, and talking about the changes I want to see and how I want it to be benefit. And then if I was offered that chance to turn around and say, oh no, I'm not doing it, well, that would be absolutely hypocrisy. So, yes, if I had the opportunity to make proper and real changes, and I don't mean, cosmetic changes, but real changes, absolutely I would go for it. Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to be brave enough to have a go and do it. And to say how bad would he be, well, I don't know. Let's see. Let somebody come along and say, Simon, you've got a week to make some changes on a countrywide basis. Then we could see how bad we would be. So I'm sorry that we've wasted something like 3.5 minutes on a question that was inane, but hopefully my answer was far more intelligent. Thank you.
That was a brilliant answer, and I was unsure about asking the question, but I just had a feeling that you were going to give such a great answer that we needed to hear the answer. Our next question comes from Klaus for you. Hi, Simon. Does normal conception and artificial insemination have different effects to the body and soul on incarnation, intelligence, and health?
Brilliant question. Nobody's ever asked me that question before. What a wonderful question. On the face of it, it seems to be a daft question, but it isn't. The soul goes into a body because the creational force makes that happen. And as long as the physical body is viable enough to maintain that soul, a soul will go in. But the question is about the physicality. When two people create the life in the female body through the accepted biological natural way, how is that better or worse than it being created in a laboratory? And what karma or energetic strains or damage or anger or sadness is created when you create that life in a test tube? That's a fascinating question, because ultimately we know that which is created in a laboratory does actually have a soul from source go into it, and it can be perfectly okay, and it can work very, very well. So was it Blade Runner that talked about cloned people? I seem to think we have to be very careful, because I don't have a problem with the idea of cloning as long as it contains a soul that was created by source. Many grey aliens have artificially robotic bodies, but have genuine divine souls in them. The greys that I have a bit of a problem with are those that don't have a soul at all. They're just a robotic body. So I wouldn't want us to think that if life is created in a test tube, it is second rate or not as good as life that is created by the understood method, because life is life and we need to respect it. But I wouldn't want to see a situation where the test tubing of life became a very common practice. So it's a really, really good question, and you know what, you could sit around for a couple of hours and have a really good debate on that one, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Our next question is from Alexandria. Could you please give meditation suggestions for the different soul groups?
No, not on a radio show. I do when people consult with me, and I will do it at a group group meetings. But the reason for this is that there are many different soul groups, and within each soul group there are different compatibilities, and I see each person individually and will suggest to them what would be best tailored for that individual. Because if I blanketly now say, oh yes, this group really does well with this, there may be that particular group has a percentage of something else in its makeup, or that individual, I should say, has a percentage of something else in its makeup, and then it will go down the road, I beg your pardon, the person would go down the road and say, well, it's not working for me, or it's just made me angry. So it's something that has to be personally done, and personally worked with that individual, because it's so vibrant, it's so important, it's the lifeblood of that individual. That person has a soul family, which may be on this planet and it may not be on this planet. And there may be energies that are at work, and you have to take the nuances into account. And, it would be wrong for me just to give a blanket answer. So I'm really sorry. I would love to do it, but it would cause more harm than good. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Luminous. Was there ever a civilization and planet that existed where there is now the asteroid belt?
We get a lot of scientists actually pondering this, as far as they're allowed to go before they threaten their pensions or their monthly wage salary check. Because the amount of the debris and the way the debris is would suggest a very large planet that's been held in a gravitational field. And if we look at some of the ancient histories, we can begin to get a little hint of it. My understanding is yes, the debris that surround us were indeed one planet and part of another planet as well. So the answer is yes. The person who's asked that question, I think, already knows the answer, but maybe they're just checking to get confirmation. So I would say yes.
Please tell Simon, the next question comes from Shah9. Please tell Simon that David Icke had mentioned him as the X factor in one of his interviews who will put an end to this pyramid system. My question is, when the power structure falls, how do you suggest the void created should be managed, as a third force might try to take over?
Could you just say who said that? Did you say David?
No, Shah, S-H-A-H.
Yes, no.
4 zeros and a 9.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry. David Icke. I might pronounce his name incorrectly.
You're saying David Icke?
Icke, yeah. I always get his name wrong. Sorry about that.
That's all right. No, heavens. It's hard enough to remember our own names. When I'm trying to remember some reptilian names and trying to pronounce them, it's incredibly difficult. Could you just read the question again? Because it's very interesting.
Please tell Simon that I believe David Icke had mentioned him as the X factor in one of his interviews, who will put an end to this pyramid system. My question is, when the power structure falls, how do you suggest the void created should be managed, as a third force might try to take over?
I haven't heard David say that. I mean, I'm very, very on record for saying how much I appreciate David Icke, because he was incredibly brave to do what he did, and he's a genuine man. But I haven't actually heard that comment. The question is very intelligent, because my concern has been for the last 3 years that when one system falls, another system comes up in its place, but between the two you are vulnerable, because you are waiting for the human consciousness mind to decide where it wants to go. Now, if I knew a negative entity, and I think I do know some, the negative entity would seek to get in the gap before the new system became into place. So, yes, I'm incredibly aware of this problem. I'm aware of 2 negative forces are off planet that are waiting for that moment, I'm also aware of a negative on-planet force that's waiting for that moment. And this goes rather back to what I said earlier. If somebody was to say to me, here you go, Simon, here's the reins of power, manage this situation for us. I'm uniquely aware of these 3 different organizations, if I can call them that, who are waiting for their opportunity just to replace one dictator with another. So it's a very, very good question, and it is one of the most serious issues that we face. I want the listeners to know this. Humanity now stands on the edge of a cliff. This is the 7th time that the human race has been at the edge of this cliff. 6 times we've tried this, and 6 times we've gone all the way to the bottom and had to work our way up again. I'm absolutely determined that the 7th time will be the successful time. That's why I was born on the 7th of September. 7th is my number. We cannot afford humanity to fail again. So this is something that I'm passionate isn't the right word here, because that's an emotional energy and I don't want to go down that road. But it's something that I'm absolutely determined to see through if I get the opportunity to do that. And I don't know if David really did say that, but it's interesting and quite appropriate that he mentioned the word pyramid, because the pyramid is not the shape of evil, but it has been hijacked as the shape of evil. So the pyramid is the sign that we always associate with the Illuminati, but the pyramid is not an evil structure. Pyramid is a very beneficial structure, and we've had the evidence to prove that. But by using the word pyramid, David Icke means the elite who control the world. So he's absolutely correct. Thank you for that.
Great, thank you, and happy early birthday to you.
Tomorrow.
This is from Thomas. Can Simon say anything about vaccines? Are some of them good or all of them to refuse?
That's another really good question. It's a bit like the garlic question, because you know what? If I go and make a statement now, I'll have every medical professional telling me that I'm doing a disservice to humanity because somebody could die of some terrible bite from some tropical insect. So, but I won't run away and I won't hide and I won't have tape stuffed around my mouth so I can't speak. What I will say is that there are undoubtedly some very, very good vaccines which have saved lives. The difficulty I have is what's being added to them. In other words, if you think that you have a vaccine which is a good product and you want to inoculate 1 million people, if a separate organisation with an evil agenda who have the ropes of power come along and say, we want to add something to your vaccine. It's a bit like chemtrails. They want to add something to the aeroplane. Half of those pilots don't know what they're spraying over the countries. They just fly their airplane. So when doctors give you injections, they believe they're giving you what they believe is something good. You know, I don't accept that all doctors are bad. Vast majority of doctors care about people, and they wouldn't willingly or knowingly inject you with something that was going to hurt you. So they're kept in the dark. They don't know. So there are, in my estimation, some inoculations which aren't good. And so certainly my children are all grown up. And I would suggest to any parent who's has children, look at it and understand why in America a law has been passed. It's not yet been put into effect, but a law has been passed that you cannot send your child to kindergarten unless it's had all its injections. Now, one argument says, yes, because we don't want to spread the disease around all the other children. But the other argument is, well, then we know from this age range that everybody has been injected. And if you were going to introduce something that was a little bit negative, you would know what the cutoff point was. So at the cost of being an immunization person, what I would say is I certainly, personally, wouldn't have any injections offered to me now at all. Not until the system changes. When and if, and let's say be positive, the system is cleared out and all these evil people who have their own agendas are removed from positions of power, and we know what's going in our drinking water, we know what's going in our food, and we know what's going in our inoculations, then they're good to have. But at the moment, ordinary people do not know what they're eating, what they're drinking, or what's been injected into them, because they're not being told the truth. That's why I want the 12 strands of DNA to get into people quickly, so that we can actually begin to perceive and understand the terrible, terrible game that is being played with good, decent, ordinary people. 99% of the population are good, decent people who would never do anything bad to somebody else, and find it incredibly hard to believe that the people they've elected are playing subservient roles to vast corporations who dictate to them what they can do and what they can't do. And even these politicians don't know what's in the needle when they go for their own injections. So all I would say is ask your higher self, you make the decision yourself, and you make it with the good intent of your children at heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Our next question is from Sandra227. I would like to know if this is a true statement. Draco is to AI as government is to Illuminati cabal.
It's a true statement. Thank you.
Our next question is from Barbara A. Rath for Simon. Are beings from Sirius B humanoid? And what other kind of life forms are living there?
The answer is yes, they are humanoid. But she's asking about Sirius B or Cyrus B. I always say that the British people say Cyrus, the American people say Sirius. But of course, most of the internet is American, so many British people say Cyrus. The whole of that star system is one of the most complex gathering points that I'm aware of. There are short range, medium range and long range portals or tunnels or wormholes, whatever you want to call them, that connect far-flung places with this group. And in the 3D world, when in this country or America turnpikes or crossroads were placed up, you got the people who were entrepreneurial started putting their shop up. So you got lots of traffic coming through. So you'd open a shop selling pies or shoe leather or what it might be. And before you know it, you've got a shopping mall. That's exactly the situation with the Sirius or Cyrus constellation. So many different off-world planetary groups were passing through that trading posts were set up in the true sense of the word. The reptilians trade genetics. Whatever we may think of the reptilians, they are absolutely fantastic masters of genetics. They are absolutely, that and nanotechnology, the two things that they are absolutely brilliant at, genetics and nanotechnology. And through trading, large numbers of humanoid groups from the fourth dimension. Sirius is a fourth dimensional planetary system, and the humanoid groups there, you don't find it anywhere else to my knowledge. There are so many part half human, higher human and reptilian and variations thereof. So today on the planet, when I meet people from the Sirius, have a Sirius soul in their body, they can either be pure Cyrus and have all the facets or the makeup that I would expect physically and energetically, right through to something that's nearly reptilian, because their soul is representing what the physical body did many, many thousands of years ago. And so it's wonderful. And I don't say it's right or wrong. I just say life is fantastic, and I accept whatever I see as life and respect it for that. So whether it's Cyrus A or Cyrus B or all the other planets, we tend to focus on these stars and these planets. But there are many, many, many habitable planets within that group. that contain greys, reptilians, half reptilian, half human, feline species, lion species. It's a wonderful mix. It's a fantastic place. The difficulty is that the energies there are not necessarily light. They're quite a heavy energy. It's quite a dense energy, and it's not necessarily always positive. So it's a good question. Thank you for that.
Our next question is from Incorrigible Missy 1. Do you believe incarnated angels to be present on this earth at this time, Simon?
Yes, I do. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I'm always amazed at people who say, the grey aliens are real, but the mantis don't exist. In other words, the aliens that I see are real, but the aliens that you see are not real. And this is ego. Why can't angels exist? Why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't elves? Why shouldn't fairies exist? I've never seen an angel, but that doesn't mean it's not real. Many people have. Now, you get the chance, and I have, of talking to people, and you can discount holographs, you can discount, hallucinogenic drugs, and ultimately you come to the point that there are genuinely angels working on this planet. Angels are entities, divine or what, I don't know, but they are positively structured to assist the planet, and they will work around that. And there are some individuals that they work with, and from the descriptions that people have given me, they sound pretty genuine to me. So yeah, I'm quite happy to go along with that.
Our next question comes from Critter. What does it feel like, or how do you know if you have connected with your soul?
Well, you're all connected with our souls. We are all connected. What does it feel like? Every morning when you wake up, you are alive. If you don't wake up physically, then you're dead, physically dead, and then your soul will have to do what it needs to do. When we are connecting with our souls, we are connecting physically, organically. And I try to talk about this by, the eye activation. When you look into somebody's eye, if the organic body is connecting with the soul and the brain is accepting what is inside and there's an understanding, then both the organic body and the energy body start to work as one. The frequency is raised, and then you become what you're supposed to be. That's what being human is really about. So we are all of those who are a soul which is created by a divine source, are connected to some degree or not. Otherwise your physical body would be dead. I think what the questioner is asking is, take it to the next stage so that we can be elevated. I didn't use the word ascension. We are elevated so that our physical bodies begin to take on more of an energy type of understanding, and that we reach a higher self-awareness. That is to do with the DNA. So it's a good question. I hope I've understood it correctly. Thank you.
Great. And our next question comes from Andy NKO. Can you comment on methods that scientists have used to detect the archons?
Oh. Very interesting. In 1971, I've got to be very careful here. In 1971, an elite, good American department began to understand that government politicians, government departments, and military scientists were being influenced in a way that they couldn't put the finger on it. There weren't drugs, it wasn't hypnosis, there was just something that wasn't right. Their own research through, dare I say it, time travel, had given them an insight into this top layer of predatory or parasitic force, which we would call archons or velon. And they began to put two and two together. During the 1980s, Ronald Reagan put his signature to what became Star Wars, and a very large project to create energy beam weapons, space travel, running alongside something as mundane as the Stingray missile, was being worked on by a whole range of corporations. But this was not a cover. I mean, it's all really genuine and was going on, but it was used as a cover to engage the finest scientific minds on the planet. And at that time, most of them were in Britain. That's surprising, but it's true. In a company called Marconi. I think it's Plessy Marconi now, but it was Marconi. And these scientists were told that they were going to work on projects, and they were all given their own little tasks to do. So they were all compartmentalized. They didn't know what they were doing, but overall they were trying to devise a defense against Arconic or Velon takeover. And a device was brought about. There is a system that they have now to detect whether scientists working on the most advanced top secret material are actually working for the government or whether they're working for an off-world entity. And if people have the chance, if they haven't already done so, to go on to the Google and you look under Marconi deaths, you will find something like 22 scientists dying in 2 years or 2.5 years, all reported as suicide. And this is all very, very connected with the search for a defense against the Archons. And I appreciate that every one of those scientists had family, and it's a tragedy because, you know, those people certainly were working for the highest order, and did some most remarkable experiments, and have done the human race a great pride. And, you know, we talked about medals. Well, I wouldn't want to give them a medal, but I would actually want to say that whenever you go on Google, you'll actually find everybody's name. They're all the scientists who supposedly committed suicide. They're all named. And I think it should be a roll of honour, actually, because those people provided the human race with a defence against a non-physical body. And that's really all I can say, because it's still a very sensitive subject, but it's a good question. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. This is a quick one here. Dove Wings would just like to know if the DNA workshops will be online.
I'd like it to be online. I really would. Unfortunately, there's only one of me. Or fortunately, depending if you don't like me. I'm only, you know, I do what I do what I can do, and I'm supported by the most fantastic group of volunteers, very small. We're not a corporation, we're not a company, we don't have huge amounts of money. We do what we can do, and I tend to go where the need is greatest. Sometimes that's an individual. I'm going to give you an example. Obviously I don't use names, but one person I connected with being hit very hard by black magicians, and I had a 6-week-old baby, you know, and that baby was being affected by the evil magics. Well, you know, I'm very, very fortunate. People donate money to me to help me run and do what I do. So in this instance, I'm able to say to that person, if you can't afford a doctor, because in America, and I'm sure the American listeners know, if you don't have a health plan, then you are dependent on charity medicine, which may or may not be any good in the state you're in. So, you know, I said I would use some of that donated money to pay for that baby to have a proper medical care, because that child is being attacked in a way that a doctor wouldn't understand, obviously, but black magicians are doing stuff, and I know when I see it. So we do what we can, and we target where we need to go. So CERN was important. The next one is the grid around us. I've got individuals who need help, and I would love to do workshops, and I would really love to, but you know, I really have to go where the need is greatest, and also where I can effect the greatest change for positive, for the decent, good people on this planet, and for heaven's sake, the planet itself, because every tree, every mouse, every bird, that has to be preserved. It has to be saved. This is a one-off thing. There's not many planets like this. It makes me die laughing when I hear some of these people saying, don't worry, when the spaceships come, we'll all get on the planet and go and find a new homeland. And I say, well, why? Stay here and fix this one. This is a beautiful place. Well, goodness knows name, do you want to leave this planet? Stay here and fight to preserve it. Fight to protect it. Make it what it always was. Make it the most beautiful place in anywhere in the multiverse. So, we all have to target it. Hopefully one day, when we turn things around a little bit, and I have a bit more time, I would love to run a workshop. It would be fantastic. So thank you for that. It's a great point.
Unfortunately, we are at a time that went so fast, and that was amazing. It was an excellent show. Thank you so much, Simon. I want to just say really quick before we have to go that there was a tremendous amount of birthday wishes for you in the chat room, and there seems to be a lot of people asking for a webinar and also asking how they could help support that. So I don't know if you want to respond to that quick or...
Well, first of all, I love you all, because love is the energy that the evil ones cannot utilize. So thank you ever so much for that. It's another birthday on this physical body tomorrow. And I always just think, I wish I'd achieved more. I wish I achieved more. I've got to achieve more. I can't stop. I've got to keep going. And that's what drives me forward. And then I've got the very evil people who've been posting stuff on the internet saying Simon Parkes will be dead within 6 months. The Mantids have dropped him. Some really, really stupid stuff out there. No, I'm not going to be dead in 6 months. I can't leave this planet until we've got somewhere. There's many others like me who are working hard, whether it's you guys doing the radio show, making this happen, whether it's other people in a hospital doing good stuff. Everyone who's doing something good is doing a little bit, and when you add all those little bits together, then it's making something really, really positive. If people can offer help, then I want that help. If it's genuinely offered and there's just love behind it, then yes, please. The problem is that because we are a very, very small group, we don't have the capacity to take the potential of big projects easily, quickly, and turn them round. That's the point. We're not a multinational. But at the same time, if genuine good energies is being offered, then I want us to accept that. So we opened up, give you an idea of what's happening. I closed my website in terms of the bookings, and we were booked up till October. And I said we need to rebook, because we want people to be able to book up to Christmas. So I opened up the bookings, and within 1 week we were booked up from October to March or February. Within 1 week we got about 5 or 6 months booking. So I've got some fantastic dedicated people who have to sit through hundreds of emails. I'm not particularly good on the administration. I can't do that. And so I'm very fortunate I've got people to do that. But we do need help. And I would love to run a webinar and actually be able to assist that. So if there are people, try and get in touch with me via the website and see where we can go with it. So, God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you all for being here. And we have encroached a bit into our next time slot. Up next, we have coming the ODD Collective, Cosmic Reality with Nancy Hopkins and Walt Silva. Hope you all can stay with us. And thank you again, Simon. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the listeners for participating and supporting.
God bless. Thank you.
Bless you.